what's the learning from F1? And a lot of these things you obviously all know. It's a huge technical challenge to build an eVTOL, and weight is everything. So you've got to build a lightweight structure, and that's where MGI and my company comes in. We design niche, lightweight, hybrid-powered composite vehicles, and an eVTOL is one of those that happens to be an aircraft. That's not to underestimate the complexities of that issue. And simulation is no solution to test flying. You must know your load cases, and it's very interesting to hear the work Joby are doing and the amount of flying they're doing, because the eVTOL industry needs to be flying, and it needs to be basing what it's doing on real flight data. And F1 is obviously doing that. It's doing thousands of laps and it's getting that data. So they're very fortunate in that way. You must design to minimum reserve factors. You must know your load cases. You must fly and test. And F1 has an easy life, the line's missed out there, because F1 doesn't have to consider long life of the vehicles. If you can see from that crash video, they don't last very long at all at times. But every year they throw the vehicle away. So they don't have to consider corrosion of aluminium inserts in carbon structures or anything like that. They don't have to worry about that because they swap them out. They're lifing components to something like 500 kilometres in some points. They're swapping parts out every day so that they can run the lightest components. But it's a lesson that the industry needs to learn, because if you're going to solve that weight conundrum, you're going to have to look at things like that. So, the weight and lightweight structures, and that's what F1's been doing all its life, is designing competitive lightweight structures, and taking the weight out of, because the batteries are going to be the batteries, they're improving, the payload's going to be the payload. The only thing you've got to reduce is the weight of the structure. And that's what Formula One spends all its time doing and all its money. And Formula One as a business model is ridiculous. It has no business model. As Stephen mentioned this morning, they all lose money. And when I was at Toyota, Greg, you'll know, with Toyota and the Toyota Way and these challenge targets they set a budget and said, and your target is to lose 5%, or save 5%. And I said, well, why am I going to do that? Because I'll spend 5% to go quicker. That's my job. And if I'm on pole by a second, let's be on pole by 1.2 seconds. So why are you saving anything? You're just spending it to go quicker. So it has a business ethos where you will spend money on incredibly small gains, things that you'd never do in a business sense. So Formula One, in terms of composites, has developed techniques that you'd never do in a business sense. Now, of course, they can just use them, and if they pass the prescriptive testing, you can use them. You don't have to consider getting through certification. But that's the approach I believe that eVTOL is going to have to take. And the aviation industry that designs a new aircraft every 20 years, they're still designing black aluminium. Formula One isn't. It's using the latest techniques, and it's spent its money developing those techniques. And that's why I believe there's this synergy between F1 and eVTOL.